Hi everybody, this is our newest project truck. It's a 1987 Freightliner FLD 120. This was Freightliner's first severe duty truck. They built them from 1986 through sometime in 1989, and then they disappeared for a while and came back a few years later as a FLD 120 SD. This truck is a true Michigan Special. It's got a 20,000 pound front axle, 20,000 pound front springs, and it's a set back front axle, giving the truck a 160 inch wheelbase. The truck's got 44,000 pound rears, full double frame, dual power steering. This truck had the Cummins 444. It's the original engine. I know there's a couple different 444s. This one's the 821. This truck's got a 15 speed instead of a 13. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, a 15 is kind of backwards of a 13. In 13 you can split your high range. On a 15 you can only split the low. So they're really good for low speed, heavy loads. The newer trucks are a little bit different. Now they have 46 rears, and a lot of them are 18 speeds. It's got a 150 gallon fuel tank, which in Michigan we can pull 11 axles including the truck. We can scale over 160,000 pounds. A lot of guys will go a lot heavier than that. In the Detroit area, for years they had no load limits at all. A lot of guys would do 22 to 23,000 pounds per axle on 11 axles. So that fuel tank there would last you about 12 hours. And if you wanted to run 18-20 hours, you'd have to go to 200 or 110 gallon tanks to get 200 or more gallons to get through the day. This truck pulled an 8-axle crude oil tanker in the northern part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, and it hauled crude oil from that area to Alma, Michigan, to Total Petroleum Company, which at the time was one of only 2 refineries in the state, the other being Marathon Oil in Detroit. About 10 years ago, Marathon Oil bought out Total Petroleum, and they dismantled the Alma refinery, so now there's only one. But that's what this truck did for the first part of its life, is pulled an 8-axle crude oil tanker to the refinery. So the 15 speed was a good choice, because the small 2-track roads that the oil companies build to get out of the oil wells onto the main highways is kind of slow going. The second job that this truck did is it pulled an 8-axle asphalt flowboy. And then the third job that it did recently is it set up to pull Michigan double bottoms, hauled gravel trains. So now the truck is set up with a wet kit. So instead of the aluminum tank being on the other side of the truck, you'll notice they have an add-on plastic tank for the hydraulic oil here for the wet kit. This truck is geared at 456, which pulls real well, even with 160 or more thousand pounds. A lot of guys now, with the higher horse, newer engines, can get away with 410s, 430s. We'll probably repaint it with the same total colors. The truck, of course, was red when it was new, like most. And then they painted it the blue and white for Total Petroleum when it was new. So it's got red interior. So we may put it back red with that same white color over the red, I don't know. But as you can see, it's got all the controls to pull a set of doubles. Tailgate switches, dolly lock. There's your up and down valve. Up there's the PTO switch. So this truck's set up to do anything you want now. The The 444 is the original engine. It was rebuilt once at about 450,000 miles, and now the truck has 545. So it's got a long way to go. It's got a Jake brake. Most Michigan Specials, of course, have a pyrometer. We've had pyrometers for decades. They produce a lot of heat pulling that much weight. It's got 6-spoke wheels all around. This truck has 385 full floaters. Some people call them balonies. Those are the equivalent of a 15.5-inch tire. The next size up that you see in Michigan is a 425, which is a 17-inch roughly. Then every once in a while you'll see a truck with 445s, which are an 18-inch wide tire. Those are rare. They get pretty tall at that point. Then there's another size that we use here. It's a 315. That's the smallest tire that you can scale 20,000 pounds on your front axle. Those are a 20-ply tire. They're quite stiff. We actually have a few sets of them around here. Sometimes in an ice storm or deep snow, it doesn't hurt to switch them to 315 for a few days to get as many square inches as you can to the ground. They'll hold the road a lot better. But the 385s are real good too. 425s and 445s will slide on the ice. So the next movie we're going to make, we're going to service this truck first and make sure everything's alright. We'll hook it onto either a set of gravel trains, doubles, or a big tanker and take it for a ride. And then we'll start to spruce it back up, fix the grill up, re-chrome some things, paint it up, and then we'll put a movie on when it's finished. Before that, the project truck we picked up just before this one about a month ago is a 1980 white auto car. Last year for the whites. Last year I believe they were built in Pennsylvania. That's also a Michigan Special just like this. 160 gallons of fuel, 44 rears, 20 front. That's got the older 400 Cummins and a 13-speed non-overdrive that spent its life pulling gravel trains in Detroit. That truck would have pulled 200,000 pounds all day, a lot of its life. So I'm going to make a movie about that before we get into that one. So this will show you what this truck was like before we did anything to it. I'll start it up here for you. I'll pop the hood. In some areas of the country, dual power steering and a 20,000 pound front axle is unusual. So I'll show that a little bit. As a lot of you may know, a 444 is a lot like a 400 Cummins. This is also a big cam 4. The difference with these, they had the low flow cooling, and they had the multi-step timing, which sometimes was a problem. This one's not been. There's the dual power steering. This one's got a Jake brake. I don't think this one's been cranked up terribly far, but most of them in Michigan are. This one doesn't smoke like a coal train, so they didn't juice it that bad.